Hello, welcome to this special workshop with Lucia Learning. My name is Annalise Jones. I'm the main teacher at Lucia Learning, and I also do one-on-one tutoring. But today I just want to talk to you as a homeschool parent. How can you help your kids learn their times tables? Either learning them from scratch, like they don't understand the concept at all, or just polishing them down and being able to give you the answer faster. Let's cover both of these. All right, thanks again for joining us. Here we go. 8 ways to learn times tables. Now, the first 2 ways are just assuming they don't understand the concept at all. So we need to get some hands-on objects and show them what it means to multiply. And we are going to group them together, right? So here's just a crude picture I just took. You'll talk to your kids and say, how many groups do we have? And then how many pencils are in each group? So we have 3 groups, but each group has 2 pencils. So we have 3 times 2. Or can you see how there's 2 in each group? And so we have 2 pencils 3 times. So we have 3 2s. So you're showing them the concept of 3 times 2. And then how many altogether? 6. And you rearrange them and then show them a different way. Show them 4 times 2 and whatever. You're just going to rearrange them, add some more, and just keep drilling them and asking them how many groups are there, and then how many are in each group, and how many total. And then for fun, you could show them the corollary, I guess you could call this. Like on this picture, we have 3 groups of 2. But then if you split the 2 in the middle, you'll have 2 groups of 3. Either way, it's 6. So then you're showing them you're allowed to reverse the numbers. 3 times 2 is the same thing as 2 times 3. So we're just getting our hands on some objects and having a conversation and just like explaining this like we're discovering it for the first time, and it's so interesting. Okay, secondly, you can point out how multiplication is a shortcut for addition. What do I mean by that? Well, if I go 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, that's the same thing as 2 times 4, right? Let's go back to this picture. Here we have 2 plus 2 plus 2. We have 3 2s. My 5-year-old is already speaking in this language. She'll be like, how much is 4 2s? And so she doesn't really know times. She doesn't know the principle of multiplication, but she knows that you can have a quantity of a number. You can have 4 5s, or you can have 6 2s, etc. So, and I just write this out. What's 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2? 8. Okay, can you see how we have 4 of those? We have 4 of the 2s. So we have 2 4 times. We have 2, we have 4 2s, right? And the same thing with here, 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. Now that's a mouthful. That's a lot to say plus that many times. Is there a shortcut? Like instead of saying plus itself so many times, if it's just plusing the same number, then we can go 3 times 5. Because do you see we have 5 3s, right? So you're just going to explain that as rudimentary as you need to. This is how they're going to understand the concept of multiplication. And now once they understand the concept of multiplication, how are they going to get faster, or what are some exercises you can have them do each day to mix things up so they're not doing flashcards every single day, right? Skip counting is a really good way to write out their numbers and see the multiples and to start recognizing the patterns. Math is all about patterns, and the more they can have their own aha moments and see those patterns, the more they will appreciate math, the more they'll understand math and begin to enjoy math. And you just have them write this out on a piece of paper. Can you write out your 2s and do your skip counting for 2s? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? How quickly can they do that? And you might have to explain this if you're working with a 7 or 8-year-old. What's the concept of skip counting, right? And you might want to even just point out, well, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or here's 2, 4. See, I'm doing every other finger. I'm skipping my fingers. And then they'll start to notice patterns back to how it's a shortcut for addition. When they write out their skip counting, if they don't know what comes next, what's their brain doing? It's thinking plus 2, plus 2. So every time they're going for a multiple, these are times tables, but every time they're going for a multiple, they're thinking plus, right? So they're getting a lot more experience with this understanding that this is plus or it's multiplication. It's a kind of the same concept, but multiplication is just a shortcut for addition, right? So you can go 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, or you can point out the first number. 2 times 1 is 2 because that's the first number on the list. The second number on the list is 2 times 2 is 4. The third number is 2 times 3 is 6. And then I don't have a screen for this, but you could write all those out, right? You could write 3 times 1 equals 3. 3 times 2 equals 6. 3 times 3 equals 9. And then show them in that answer column how those are skip counting numbers. We have a 3, a 6, a 9, a 12, a 15. So yes, we are adding, but we're also doing each step multiplying. So that's a really cool concept, a really cool pattern for them to figure out. And even sometimes kids know the times tables, but they don't have that concept down. So it's still always good to go over the concepts of math. It's one thing to memorize math facts, but do they understand what it means and why? It's really helpful to get into these patterns and just appreciate the magic that numbers have. Okay. And that is also used to understand the concept of common multiples, which you don't run in maybe at the end of 4th grade, mostly 5th grade. You can point this out and say, like, let's look at the lines for the 2s and the 3s. Now, where do you see the same numbers? Well, they both have a 6, and they both have a 12, and they both have an 18. But hey, there's a really cool pattern there because 6, 12, and 18 are multiples of 6, right? So 2 times 3 is 6, and then every time we have a multiple of 6, we're going to overlap those 2s and 3s again. And if you wanted to write these out kind of like in a leapfrogging a certain way, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 3, 6, 9, 12, but then you're going to show how certain numbers match up. That's really cool for them to see that there's a connection, there's an overlap happening there. And then 6 and 7, you're not going to see any overlap, I mean, in a similar vein until you reach 42. 6 times 7 is 42, right? But if you were to show 6 and 9, you'll get an overlap before you get to the 6 times 9. And maybe discuss why that is. When you're looking at common multiples with some numbers, you have to multiply them by each other to get the least common multiple. And other numbers, there's going to be a lower number. It's just like, hey, it magically pops up. There's actually another option. And there is, I have the explanation for why that is and how you know when there's going to be a lower option than just multiplying them together. But I don't want to give you the answer because I want you to think about that and see if you can come up with that by looking at patterns. Do some trial and error and see if you can figure out why that is. And again, that would be like with a 5th grader, okay? So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So back to times tables. Number 4, we all love fun toys, right? I just wanted to recommend some of my favorite products to get their hands on, and they get to work their times tables, but they're also looking at bright colors. They're wrapping this string around with this product on the left, or they're looking at these fun poppets. Everybody loves these poppets, right? So on the left, it's just a wrap up. These are called learning wrap ups. You can search on Amazon or eBay, and you move the string from, so all of these are times ones, right? So you're gonna go 4 over to the 4 and then go back to the side you started on. And then 11 times 1 is 11. Find the 11 on the other side and move the string, right? And then when you're done and it's all wrapped up, like how it's shown, you turn it over and check your answers because it'll show all the lines that the strings make. So those are really fun. My kids use those to learn the times tables. That was a biggie in our house for my older kids. And then here on the right, again, we're familiar with this toy, the pop-up. But what if you have to say the answer to the problem before you can press it down? And then you can check your answers on the back if you would like to check your answers on the back. That's a lot of back and forth, but hey, it's fun. And that way they can it kind of gives you a dopamine hit to hear that pop sound every time you say a times table. So I think that's really helpful and that's really cool. All right, multiplication chart. Now, yeah, speaking of how the brain works, by the way, I'm also a psychologist. Some kids like to see things in pictures and they like to do colors or they just like to notice the patterns that they're forming when they put something into a diagram or a picture, right? So my 4th child, she knew her concept of times tables. She could figure them out, but she just wasn't getting them polished. And we were working and working and she just wasn't getting any faster. And we were saying, how can we like solidify this in your mind? But she's a very artsy person. And so we knew that she needed to see it in a diagram or in a picture. So this is something you can just Google and print out, search for an empty multiplication chart. And this is really fun because it'll show you all kinds of patterns. And you will see skip counting. So like if you go across the row of 2s, it'll go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, right? Or we go down a column. So take this 3 and you'll see a 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So they're going to fill it out through rows and columns by thinking about their skip counting. But then it's also fun because they will notice shortcuts and they will see certain really cool patterns. Like you'll see number patterns coming along on the diagonals with some repetitions. They can use different colors for different number groups if they want and just make it fun. So my own daughter, she did this every day for I think 5 days, and then she got it. And then it was solidified and she had all of her times tables down really well. So maybe that hasn't occurred to you that for math, they don't have to open up a book. They don't have to do a curriculum. Hey, why don't they just fill out a chart? And they might enjoy mixing that up and getting something fresh. That's why I'm showing you so many different options, really, because you're going to use these different from week to week, use a different option and just keep mixing it up. Nobody wants to do flashcards day after day after day after day, right? But let's talk about flashcards. Now, when you use flashcards, the error that we commonly make is we give them the whole deck. Like, let's say they're familiar with the times tables, they're just trying to get faster. So you hand them the whole deck. And it takes them maybe 10 minutes. And they're going through this entire deck, and maybe it has 90 facts in it, right? If you do it front and back, that's just pretty dull. But the problem is, we memorize things through repetition. And if they do every card once, they didn't repeat anything, right? Unless you're counting the 5 times 3 and then the 3 times 5. But ideally, they need to see the same card multiple times, at least 5 times in a session. They need to be looking at the same exact card. Because at the first time you see it, it'll be like 3 times 4, and they'll think about it. And it'll take them a couple seconds, right? 12. But then if 10 seconds later, because you're only holding 5 to 10 cards, if 10 seconds later they see that one again, they'll come up with their answer a lot quicker. 3 times 4, 12. But then the next time they see it, 3 times 4, 12. And they're getting it faster and faster because of the repetition. Our brains need to see it multiple times. So not the whole deck. I would just recommend between 5 to 10 cards. Now it depends what level they're at. At the beginning, you're going to want to do a set, like you're going to want to do the 2s, right? They're going to learn their 2s before they move on to their 3s. But even still, I would say just give them the top row here, the first 5 facts for their 2s. That way they're going to see them over and over and over. By the way, another note is don't be so quick to take out the facts they know, because it will build their confidence to have easy ones in there, right? Like you don't want to have every fact something that they're thinking through and struggling with. You want to throw some easy ones in there to give them that quick rush of confidence. Like, yes, I know this. This is great. So I would just give them these first 5 cards and have them sit down with it. And they're going to cycle through this group of cards like 5 times, right? So that would be 25 math facts, but you're seeing the repetition of them multiple times. Now, it is better to do a restricted range of math facts multiple times than to do all sorts of math facts once. Because if you just do them once, you're not memorizing them. You didn't get a chance to try again and try again and try again on the same fact, right? So then the next day, maybe you would bring in these second 5 cards. And maybe it just takes a couple minutes. So maybe you would do it at breakfast and again at lunch. But if you dedicate yourself to this for just 2 or 3 weeks, like if they're doing it at every meal, they're going to learn really quickly. And all this repetition is really going to build them up. It's going to give them the confidence and give them such a great foundation to go forward in their math. Number 7 is workbooks, just your regular workbooks. But I want to show you what I like to use. A lot of workbooks have pictures and colors, and it just looks like a circus. It just looks like a kindergarten page. It's lots of fun, but that can be really busy and distracting on the eye. And what you want is just your basic black and white. Just give me math facts all over the page, because I want to be able to go down and drill just the answer without worrying about what color crayon do I use now, right? I mean, that's fun for if they're just at the beginning, like if they're in 2nd grade. But once you're trying to get faster and you're drilling, please get these just regular paper. You could even find a website to print off these for free, but then these 2 workbooks are on Amazon, so I recommend these. And just have them do a couple pages every day. All right. When you're doing the flashcards or the workbooks, you want to watch the time, how long it's taking them to answer, and you're going to drill it until they can answer it in 1 second. So you really don't want there to be any hesitation. Now, when you watch them do their math facts, you can tell, do they know the answer? Is it memorized, or are they thinking about it? So if they know the answer, they'll be able to say it within a second. If they have to stop and ponder, that's fine. Kudos to them for problem solving and finding the answer, but they need a lot more repetition until it's memorized. Now, another word on this is, do you see how this book on the right is timed tests from multiplication problems? I don't do that with my students very often. I just tend to work with a lot of kids who are maybe neurodivergent. They've got some anxiety and they don't perform very well under pressure. They do not appreciate being timed, right? Maybe your child does. Maybe that would motivate them. It's kind of designed to where you do the page, you count how long it took you, and then tomorrow you try to do it faster, right? I think that would motivate some kids. It would have motivated me, but I'll just by and large, the majority of the kids I work with, they do not work well under pressure. So talk about how the brain works. If their amygdala is activated with emotion and anxiety, they're not going to be able to think so rationally. So you want that prefrontal cortex to be active to where they can have reason and logic and to be able to think clearly and rationally. And that does not work when there's lots of emotions happening. So just in general, a really good lesson for your homeschool is if your child is feeling frustrated or emotional, that's not the time to do schoolwork, right? In my family, I've homeschooled my 5 kids. We just always say mental health comes first. It's okay if you don't get as much schoolwork done on a certain day, if you needed to talk something out, if you need to go on a walk with your mom, if you need to take a rest or listen to music or do meditation, that comes first. We need to take really good care of our brains, and then we will be primed and ready to learn. But you can't force learning if they're in a state of stress. So please put mental health first and look at how their brains work. Again, are they an artsy person? Are they a hands-on person? Do they have to move their body? This is the advantage to homeschool is you can adapt your lessons and your methods to work for them. So talk to me if you want more coaching on psychology and what your child needs and what kind of personality type they have, because you will approach learning differently depending on their needs. So I'm really passionate about that. I've got a degree in psychology in addition to my English, and then I do the math and I do some other electives. So I am a teacher, but I definitely work in the emotional support of the psychology and the understanding of how the brain works. Okay, finally, this is our last one, just basic verbal recitation. And this is what they did in classic one-room schoolhouses, right? I mean, they didn't have tons and tons of sheets of paper or printers or workbooks. So they just recited their times tables. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. And you just have them say it and say the entire set and then go on to the next number. But the advantage with speaking is that our voice is naturally carrying a rhythm. You're on a beat. You could even add in some clapping, right? So form a beat. You know that game Alligator Rhythm? Get a beat going, okay? And then their answer will have to be on the beat so they don't have time for hesitation. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times, okay, so you see the idea. So that also makes it fun if you have a child who's more of a musical learner or an audio learner, that will be really good for them. Paper and pencil is so visual that if they're an audio learner, you can tell because they will probably love music. Or if they're a physical person where they love sports, they're very body oriented, then get them clapping or get them jumping and have them recite it on the beat. You can do this jumping on a trampoline, right? Jump, jump, jump. 2 times 2 is 4, jump. 2 times 3 is 6, jump, right? And like you can turn it into a rap, like you can have lots of fun with this. So again, like schoolwork should not be a chore. Adapt, meet the needs of your child, and find how you can inspire them and make this fun. Okay, that's the main message that I have to share with you today. Okay, now can I just share a little bit about what I do? I hope this empowers you to work with your own child, but if you do need additional help, I offer classes online, sometimes in person in Sandy, Utah, and then individual tutoring. So learning times tables is 3rd grade level. And notice that I said level. This is not age, okay? Your child might be 7 or 8, and that's great if they're on, on level. But maybe they're 10 or 11, 12, 13. If they're working on the times tables, they're on third grade level. Now, as the teacher, when you sign up for my classes, I do not care how old your child is. I don't care what grade they're in. I care about their ability level. So I will assess them and put them in the right class according to their ability level. So I usually teach a range, like we'll have a 10-year-old or a 13 or 14-year-old in the same class. And I mean, for the most part, nobody cares. I think it's fine. Like, nobody really knows how old each other is anyway, right? And for homeschoolers, they're used to learning in their families where there's a good mix of ages. It's really only a public school thing where, like, all the 13-year-olds need to be in one room and the 13-year-olds have to be with other 13-year-olds, right? So there really isn't a focus on age so much. In the homeschool world, it's okay to group different ages together. But again, there's always exceptions. If you have a teenager who's really, self-conscious about this and doesn't want to be with someone a couple of years younger than them, then we put together a remedial teen class. I would be willing to do this, but I need a minimum of 5 students where it's teens only. This way they can all like it's just really supportive for them and affirming to know that they're not the only one. There's all these other teens are also like 5 years behind on their math. And actually it's super common. I tutor so many teens who are just working on third or fourth grade level math. So it's really common if your child is struggling, they are not alone. So they being in a group with other teens really helps affirm them and helps them make friends too. Like they might not want to make friends with a 9-year-old. But in class, if they're able to chat a little bit or get someone's number, they can make friends with someone who's in a similar situation, who they can understand at their same age, at that same level, right? And maybe they can I've had students who meet online together and do their homework together, and it's just really fun to build each other up and to motivate them to get their homework done. So it is really cool to be able to make friends in a group setting. But sometimes online groups don't work for students of any age. If I notice your child is getting distracted, they're not paying attention, I might call them out and like put them on the spot, ask them a problem, but I'll start to notice if they're listening to class, but then they ask the questions week after week where I know they're not getting it, then I know they need one-on-one help. They need me asking them every question directly, and they need to be thinking out loud and telling me their thought process and working together in a much more engaged way and much more active way than just listening to a class. Okay, so if that's the case, I'll probably let you know that they need individual tutoring. And individual tutoring you can schedule, usually it's a half hour, but you can do 45 or 60 minutes if you want. So a half-hour session goes for $25, and I'll sell it to you in a package so that we don't have to exchange money every time we meet. So this is all online, but you can pay $100 for a package of 4, and maybe that'll last you 2 weeks if you're doing twice a week, or it'll last you a month if you're doing once a week. Or you can pay for a bigger package. I'm really flexible. Whatever you want to do, it's just good to get a package and commit to showing up every week. By the way, I didn't tell you the fee for the classes. For fall semester 2025, the class will be $160, meeting for an hour once a week. There's a discount if you pay for the full year. So if you're paying for fall and spring at the same time, then it's $300 for the year. So that saves you $20. Let me know if you want to sign up for that. I have not scheduled the third grade level math class yet. I have a few families, but we haven't scheduled it yet. I would like to put this invitation out there to you. If you know you're interested in this, can you please reach out to me soon? Because then we will schedule it. We will take everybody's needs into account and schedule it around your activities so that we can make that work for everybody. Because I'm pretty flexible, so I'm always open to just scheduling when it works for you guys. Please reach out if you want to do the third grade level math class. Also reach out if you want a remedial teen class. I don't have anybody for that yet, and I would like a minimum of 5. So let me know if that's something we want to try, or do we need to talk about individual tutoring, or even semi-private if you have a friend or a sibling. I'm totally flexible. Just reach out to me and we'll talk. So this is how you can find me, my phone number. You're welcome to text or call. You can get to know me a bit and tell me about your situation. At my website, lucialearning.com, you can see my teaching philosophy, look more at my background, and the other classes I teach. I'm not just math. I teach psychology, leadership, zoology, language arts, essay writing. So take a look at my classes and you're welcome to try a class for free and then decide if you want to sign up. I'm super flexible. I mean, like, I just want to accommodate you. I'm here to support you as homeschool moms. And then my email address, reach out to me if there's something I can do for you. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has been helpful. I would love to get to know you more and hear about your personal situation and give you my recommendations. I didn't include the fact that if you wanted just some coaching on how to homeschool or how to work with your child's needs, if there's some ADHD or anxiety involved or whatever you've got, you can reach out to me for some coaching. So let's just talk on that on a case-by-case basis. All right, so there you go. Ways to learn your times tables. Thank you so much for being here with me today.